1796. George Washington leaves office, but he doesn't leave quietly. He publishes a warning in the Daily Advertiser, a final rule for the road. Steer clear of permanent alliance with any portion of the foreign world. The United States was an infant. To them, the Atlantic wasn't just water, it was a moat. God gave America this shield. As long as the United States stayed behind it, it would be untouchable. 25 years later, 1821, Greece was burning. The Greeks were in war for independence against the Ottoman Empire. The American public cheered. They saw a reflection of their own revolution. They wanted to intervene. But Secretary of State John Quincy Adams refused. America is the well-wisher to the freedom and independence of all, but she is the champion and vindicator only of her own. If America started hunting monsters abroad, she might become the dictatress of the world. She would no longer be the ruler of her own spirit. But America didn't always listen. 1917. President Woodrow Wilson broke the rule. He sent American boys to Europe to make the world safe for democracy. But the safety never came. 116,000 soldiers didn't come home. Over $30 billion poured into the mud of Europe, and Europe remained a mess. A decade later, the nation that saved the world was starving. The Great Depression crushed the American heartland. The US veterans, whose blood watered the meadows of France, were now standing in bread lines in Chicago. Then, Senator Gerald Nye's investigation confirmed the public's rage. The war wasn't a crusade, it was a business transaction for bankers and arms dealers, and the American people had been scammed. To ensure this never happened again, Congress passed the Neutrality Acts. Even if a nation was being invaded, America could not sell them weapons. 1940. Europe was falling. Hitler's armies had crushed France. Britain was standing alone. The pressure to intervene was building. But one man stood in the way. Charles Lindbergh. He was an American hero, the first man to fly solo across the Atlantic. And he used that fame to launch the America First Committee. It became the largest anti-war organization in American history. 800,000 members. Lindbergh's argument was cold and practical. We cannot save Europe. Germany is too strong. The ocean is our only defense. If we enter fighting for democracy abroad, we may end by losing it at home. But the debate didn't end with a vote. It ended with an explosion. December 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor. The Moat failed. The ocean wasn't a shield. It was a highway for Japanese aircraft carriers. In a single morning, the isolationist dream evaporated. Reality had arrived, and it brought a new rule. If you don't go to the world will come to you. Writing this from the outside, I ran the script through my AI tools for a sanity check. They immediately flagged the word isolationism. The algorithm warned me. The term is loaded and negative. It suggested softer terms like non-intervention. But let's be honest about history. For most of civilization, minding your own business was the default setting. Self-interest is the rule, altruism is the exception. And that is exactly why the American experiment is a rare anomaly. For the last century, this nation was willing to look beyond its own doorstep. Cynics call it imperialism. Politicians call it national interest. But beyond the slogans, from FDR to the soldier on the ground, there was a genuine spirit, a willingness to shoulder the weight of the world. Regardless of whether America continues to carry that burden, the world appreciates what you have done. Look at Kabul, Afghanistan, 2021. When the C-17s took off, people were clinging to the landing gear. They knew falling from the sky was terrifying, but the tyranny waiting on the ground was worse. That desperation is the ultimate proof of what you have provided to the world. Okay, that concludes the Everybody Loves America portion of our program. Now, Let's look at the X-ray. The reality is undeniable. The American public is tired. The badge of the world's policeman has become too heavy, and the gratitude too scarce. From the outside, the desire to close the door is entirely understandable. It is a sovereign house, after all. The owner has every right to lock it. But, while a neighbour might respect privacy, a surgeon is obligated to point out a tumour. And this is not a lecture about losing cheap plastics from China, or microchips from Taiwan, or coffee from Africa. Those are just commodities. Commodities can be replaced. The real concern is something that cannot be replaced. But first, a massive laziness in modern analysis must be corrected. Many brand Donald Trump as an isolationist, trying to build America a massive hermit kingdom.
Our foreign policy began to make less and less sense.
They are wrong. He is a Jacksonian. Named after Andrew Jackson, this philosophy is simple. It rejects dogma. It ignores moral obligations. It says, we don't have permanent friends. We don't have permanent enemies. We only have permanent interests. Now, critics love to label this as nationalism, or even slide into the F word, fascism. But we are not going to do that here. That's lazy analysis. Let's look at it calmly. What if America completely abandons its legacy of alliances and decide that from now on, every treaty is just a transaction? Let's skip the abstract jargon. Let's look at something real, a paycheck. Why does a plumber in Little Rock earn 10 times more than a plumber in Mumbai? It is not because pipes in Arkansas are harder to fix. It is not because the American hands are 10 times more skilled. They are both doing the same job. The difference is the voltage of the system. The plumber in Little Rock is plugged into a $25 trillion machine. And here is the key. This machine isn't just serving America, it is serving and billing the world. While others service a local grid, the American is servicing the engine of the global economy. High-tech and high finance generate this massive power load by creating the most cutting-edge value for the human race. And that global value doesn't just stay on the coasts, it circulates. It moves from Wall Street to Main Street, finding its way to the canoe rentals on the Arkansas River, and eventually to the local plumber's pocket. It is not charity, it is connectivity. So the question is not about the plumbing. The question is, what keeps the generator spinning? We call it innovation, or to be precise, it comes from brains. Human intelligence is randomly distributed across the planet. No nation has a monopoly on genius. But for the last century, America had a monopoly on attracting genius. From India, from China, from the Middle East, from Nazi Germany, from Eastern Europe. They did come here for the money, and also running away from something. From tyranny, from censorship, from rigid hierarchies, from fear. They came to Silicon Valley and Houston Space Center because here, they could breathe. That safety to breathe is the fuel of the American engine. Now, we are not talking about illegal immigration here. We are talking about the genius class. But in a system where scrutiny intensifies, origin will become a suspicion. The calculation for a young engineer changes. If the safety to breathe is compromised, the equation of staying shifts. Where would they go? Will they go back to serve their home country, since there is no difference between America and home, making these tyrannies and rivals even stronger? Or alternatively, to Europe, Japan, or Canada, to former allies that the USA doesn't fully recognize anymore, giving them more bargaining chips to making deals with? It is a simple question of incentives. When the door is locked to protect the house, the guests who build the house might just stop coming. So we have the jobs, we have the mines. Now let's talk about the money. We often hear that the US dollar is backed by aircraft carriers. That is only half the story. The dollar is backed by certainty. And we are not talking about money from oligarchs or dictators. They have their own secret channels. We are talking about the savings of millions of middle-class families and small business owners from Tokyo to Mumbai, from London to Sao Paulo. Contrary to the myth that foreign governments own America, the reality is that over 75% of foreign investment comes from the private sector. Pension funds, insurance companies, family savings accounts. What drives this massive capital flow? Is safety the only magnet? No, that's only half the truth. Japan is safe. The UK is safe. The real reason is simple: growth.
America is not just a vault, it is the world's most profitable casino. Investors come because, while the house always wins, it ensures the players win enough to keep coming back. But let's look at the data. The deal is changing. 20 years ago, the US dollar made up 72% of global currency reserves. Today, it has dropped to 58%. In global payments, we see the rise of the yuan, the euro, and perhaps more worryingly, nations making direct deals, bypassing the dollar entirely. These might look like small cracks, a percentage point here, a percentage point there. Think of dollar dominance as a block of ice. In a deep freeze, the difference between 5 degrees Fahrenheit and 31 degrees Fahrenheit is invisible to the naked eye. It feels solid, it acts solid. It is easy to dismiss the drops of water on the surface as noise. It still acts like a solid, but physics is absolute. The moment the temperature ticks past 32 degrees, the phase change begins. It is not a vanishing act, it is a structural failure. The ice might still be there, but it can no longer bear the weight of the world.
When the world decides that the American casino is no longer paying out, or that the vault is no longer safe, the infinite liquidity that funds innovation simply evaporates.
When capital takes flight, the brain drain accelerates. America will still have jobs, make no mistake, but they won't be the jobs that build the future. There will be even more jobs to do.
There will be even more jobs to do, but only hard jobs. Thank you for staying with me until the end. This is The Visible Hand. If you found value in this analysis, please like and share to support the mission. That concludes the strategy session. To keep your seat at the table for the next breakdown, look down and make that subscribe button grey. Meeting adjourned.